Hello and welcome back for day 2 of this series called Big Questions. And yesterday we talked about who is God and a little bit about God, but today I want to talk to you about who is man and who is woman or woman. In the Old Testament it was Ish for Adam and Isha for Eve, and you see how her name sounds like his name because she came from his rib and all that kind of stuff. But I want to start you off. We're going to talk about who is man. And man is an interesting character if you go back to the book of Genesis. So when I go back to Genesis chapter 1 and you get to the 6th day, you read this, that God created all living creatures, all the cattle and the creeping things and all that kind of stuff. But then after God's created all the plants and vegetables and all that, fruit trees, he also created animals. And then in the 6th day, creates all these animals. And then at the very end of that, it says, then God said, verse 26 of Genesis chapter 1, then God said, let us make man in our image according to our likeness, and let them have dominion over all the animals, basically. So it says in verse 27, so God created man, or that's mankind, man and woman, in his own image, in the image of God. He created him, male and female. He created them. And it says that they are to have dominion over all creatures. And in verse 29 of Genesis chapter 1, it says, I have given every herb that yields its seed, which is on the face of the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed to you to be for you as food. And he gave Adam and Eve responsibility. He gave them dominion over animals, over trees, over the entirety of his creation. And then later on, we read the more detailed account of how Adam was created and he didn't have a helper suitable for him, and God gave him Eve and put him to sleep and took his rib out and created Eve from Adam. And it says in that the reason why God created 2 of them was so that they could procreate, I would imagine, but also that it said that there wasn't another creature on earth that was a suitable companion for man. Okay. And so I want you to catch that. We live in a world that says that man and woman are no different than animals. Okay. And that couldn't be farther from the truth if you come at things from a biblical worldview and just, I would think, a common sense worldview. There is a definite distinction between man and beast. Mankind has been made in the image of God. And that is something that we should hold dear to our hearts, that he loved us enough to create us in such a way. So God gives mankind all the fruit trees and all that to eat. And then he also gave them dominion over the whole earth. And then he puts them in the garden. And it says he put them in the garden, which is also known as paradise, Eden, to tend it and to keep it. And then they were to name the animals and all kinds of things like that. So if you really think about mankind, they were first created by God in his image for some purpose, but we know part of their purpose was to tend the garden, to keep it. And then we also know that their purpose was to name the animals and to look after God's creation. And so that kind of gives you some insight, at least to the first cause of man being here on planet Earth. It seems pretty evident if you go back and you read through Genesis chapters 1, 2, and 3. So then we run up against the question, well, we no longer live in the Garden of Eden. And what happened there? Why were man and woman expelled from the Garden of Eden? And we all understand why they were kicked out. You know, they ate of the forbidden fruit. Whatever that fruit was, they ate of that forbidden fruit. But the bigger question for me is that man was created with a good character. And twice in the account of the 6th day, God says it was good. God created them and it was good. And so my bigger question is, Adam and Eve did not have a sin nature like ours from the get-go, I guess. So how is it that good people do bad things? Because they're the only example that we've ever had of good people with a good nature doing something bad. And we will save that for next time. So who is man? Man was created in God's image. God created Eve to be the helper for Adam, and he created both of them in his image, and he gave them a job to do to help rule over his creation. That was the initial calling, I guess you could say, of Adam and Eve. And we know that in that time period, they walked with God in the garden. So they had an intimate fellowship with him. And so we're going to leave it there, and we're going to come back tomorrow for day 3. And I hope you join us. Bye.
Subscribe for more.